Good morning. Well, actually, it's good afternoon, isn't it, Ashley, where you are? Hello, hello. Welcome to
hmm
What's Important Now.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you for coming on the show. So, where in the world are you? Paint a picture for me of where you live.
Yes. So I live in Ohio in a very small town. It's called Londonderry. A lot of people were like, dairy as in cow. And I was like, no, dairy as in Derry. So I live in the foothills of the Appellation Mountains. And it's so gorgeous. It's so beautiful down here. And I basically just have 9 acres of land with my husband and my little Nicholas.
Oh, wow. That's so cool. So, how old is your son?
He is two, currently napping, and I'm like crossing my fingers he'll keep napping while we talk.
Oh, yeah. Look, mine are not two. They're like 15 and 17. And I'm also crossing my fingers that they're still napping. So, because as soon as they get up, they'll use the internet and it'll ruin everything. Okay,
Yeah.
wonderful. Wow, that sounds lovely. So thank you so much for well, first of all, accepting my request for an interview and for jumping on board, at all hours of the day. I really appreciate it. So tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about you. What are you up to in life and what's a little bit about your background?
100%. So, as I mentioned, I am a mom, I'm a wife, and I also am a full-time business owner. So I have a email marketing strategy business, and essentially what I focus on is helping coaches and strategists specifically to work through the process of being able to amplify sales and relationships through email marketing specifically. So that keeps me like super duper busy as I'm like working with clients and doing like all the things.
Yeah. So have you always worked from home or did you used to work in an office? What did that look like before COVID-19?
Yeah, so I was originally, so I've been working from home for about 2 years now, full time. And then previously to that, I did the whole corporate lifestyle, going to college, and all of that really good stuff.
Yeah, yeah. And where did you work before you did the email marketing?
Yeah, so before that, I worked for an internet service provider. And so it's been like really interesting because as I'm like working with the internet and all the things, it's like super techy. And so is email marketing. So it went hand in hand, which was really cool. But I did a lot of more so like tech support, customer service, and all that good stuff.
Cool. So what was happening for you before 2020, before COVID-19 hit? What was life like?
Gosh, it was like a crazy roller coaster in terms of with like trying to be in all the places, trying to do all the things. I felt it's very interesting because I really felt like left out within like my community. As an online entrepreneur, like there's entrepreneurs like all over the world and they're going to these conferences and these
Yeah.
events and all this stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just want to go so terribly. Like I want to go. But unfortunately, well not unfortunately, but I had a newborn baby that turned into a 1 year old, and he's very mommy attached. And I was like, oh, I just don't know about taking a 1 year old to a conference, like a business conference like that.
Mm,
And so it was one of those things where I just really kind of felt not really kind of like stranded, but definitely like in my own little circle. Because again, I live out in the middle of nowhere, so the connection wasn't as great. And so I was just kind of like, man, I felt really left out. That's kind of like my
mm.
overarching feeling that I had is I was like stranded in my own little bubble essentially.
Yeah, I can totally understand that. I mean, it is sometimes when you work from home, it is really challenging because you are spending so much time on your own. So, what
Yeah.
shifted for you when the pandemic hit? What changed?
Yeah, so the biggest shift that happened is I definitely felt that like more sense of community because people weren't spending time on airplanes and going to conferences and these big events and things and me drooling over I would love to be there but I have this child.
Ah, yeah,
And now
yeah,
like so much shifted in terms of with everything going virtual, which was awesome because at that point I could be at the comfort of my own home and like it would be perfect because then I could
yeah.
like have the kid but do the things and all of that. So that was like a huge amazing shift is that like oh my gosh we can do all this virtual, it can be a great experience for people who are at home. And I think also too like for mothers in general, like I feel like it has really helped us out because then we don't feel like we have to go and battle the difficulties of having a small child with trying to be present and trying to do all the things and really that, we can, shift and change and do the things, without needing to like go all crazy with it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it totally does. So have you experienced any downturn in business at all, or has there been an uptick?
Yeah, so I would say in March it was a little bit iffy, right when it was like coming out and like all the things. But after that, it's been very steady in terms of with what I have going on, where I'm going, all of that really good stuff.
Yeah, that's really cool. So what
Yeah.
about in your family? What's that been like for you?
Yeah, so my husband, he works IT, and he was working, outside of the home. And with him being home now, it's been really special because, my son is like ecstatic, that he can just knock on the door and be like, oh, there's dad. As opposed to previously,
Yeah.
like my husband was gone all the time. And so now since he's home, like they've had a lot more time together, a lot more time to bond. And it's been really helpful for me too, since I do work from home, because then he's able to help, take care of him, allow, that pressure to kind of come off, instead of me trying to watch the kid, be the mom, be the business owner, and all of that.
Okay. So what is most important to you right now?
Gosh, I think the most important piece of it, is everyone staying healthy. That's like so incredibly important. My brother, he has been battling leukemia, and he ended up getting COVID, and it's just been
Oh,
like a really like craziness. And so I just like, that's like really important to me. I'm just like, oh my gosh, okay, everyone, can we all just please stay healthy, like please and thank you. But the other piece I'll say as well too, that's really important, is just like having these moments of connection and taking advantage of people slowing down and not having all the events and the hustle and feeling like you're being left out because you're not going to all of these events or doing all these things, and really prioritizing more so of like online connections and relationships that you can bring, just like us, right? Like this is an amazing opportunity and way for us to be able to connect without me like
yeah.
flying all the way over to you, or you flying all the way over here to do this. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I do get what you mean. I mean, I had a business when I had babies. I would just take them. I would just take them with
Yeah.
me. It didn't always go well though. So, and I've known people who've done that. So it is possible to do that. And a lot of events will cater
Mhm.
for moms, but it can be really tricky. There was one time I was doing a part-time job with a nonprofit, and I got sent to a seminar in Melbourne, and I had a
Mhm.
breastfeeding baby, and he was a little bit older.
Wow.
He wasn't like, I breastfed my kids quite long, very
Mhm.
controversial. And
Yeah.
so he was about one. And yeah, he was very noisy. But there was a guy there with a seeing eye dog, and no one batted an eyelid. But here I am with a baby, and I'm trying to keep him quiet and doing my best. And it wasn't
Yeah.
too bad. It wasn't like squawking the whole time or anything. But as soon as he
Yeah.
started making noise, I just feed him. And yeah, people were like, "Oh, you sure you don't want to go out there? You sure you don't want to?"
Yeah.
It's just
Definitely.
awkward. I'll never forget that experience though, because I just didn't think anything of it at the time. And
Mhm.
then it was in people's reactions to it that I just went, this is weird. Why are they reacting to a
Yeah.
baby and they don't care about a dog? Like, what
Right.
does it matter? Like,
Exactly.
I get it's a different thing, right? Like, I get that
Yeah.
he needed the dog there. I didn't really
Yeah.
need the
But
baby there, but the baby needed me.
right. Well, no, and that's another good point as well too, because like before the pandemic as well, I was always like super kind of like, oh my gosh, okay, I don't want anyone to know I have a kid. Like, I'm here, I'm professional. Like, I always really felt like I had to have a certain image that I needed to withhold as a business owner.
Mm,
So what ended up happening for me is I was like, holy guacamole, like now people understand what it's like to have a kid come in all the time. And I feel like now times when like I have meetings and stuff, like I don't nearly like apologize as much as what I used to about my child coming in and waving and saying hi, because they're like, yeah, like we had our kids home for like 3 months or 6 months or whatever, so I think it's definitely become like more acceptable for, and it's sadly I like to say this, like I think it has become more, acceptable for children to be part of the work life balance.
yeah, let's talk a little bit more about that. So, how have you found it? Like, I mean, your husband's at home, you're at home,
Mhm.
your child's at home. How have you found managing the balance?
So for the most part, for my husband, he's like in his office and he's good to go, and he comes out like on his breaks. So like he's pretty just kind of whatever. But I will say that sometimes like I'll have things scheduled and then he'll come out to say something to me and I'm like, I'm so sorry, like I'm on this meeting, like I have to be here, like I can't be over here with you. And so sometimes that balance can get really hard because you want to be attentive to your spouse and like have those connection points throughout the day that like you miss when they're at work. But then at the same point too, you're on the flip side, like when you have a child, that child's like constantly needing you a lot of times. I know my 2-year old anyways, it's like always needing me, always asking for something. It's always something. And so
Mm.
like I'm constantly interrupted from that. And so I've had to transition how I approach my work and my time blocks as like, hey, just so you know, like I time block and like this is my plan, but that don't mean that plan is gonna stick and like that's what it's gonna be like, especially when you have a 2-year old.
Yeah, yeah, I can really hear that that's challenging. And
Yeah.
yeah, and but has it been, have you had felt like you've had more time with your partner as well? Like have you had um a renewed, I guess, oh gosh, it's too early in the morning. I'm trying to think of the word. Um, like, has it sparked anything new in your relationship, or has it been stressful? Like, it's okay to admit either way, because I've had both.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say it's a little bit of both. I mean, obviously, my husband is, I'm an extrovert and he's an introvert. So for him, he's just like very kind of like overwhelmed by me sometimes because I'm just like, da 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 da. Like I'm all over the place. Like I just have like all the things to say all the time. So I think he misses his like long car rides where he decompresses and he has his moments and
Ah, yeah.
but for me, I'm like, cool, this is like an extra hour we can do something. And he's like, no, like I still need to decompress from work. Like I need my moments. And I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say it's a little bit of both. I think it's kind of like a seesaw, right? Like or a level, right? So like a little bit more sand than the other side. And just kind of figuring out that balance and flow, even for day to day, right? Like, sometimes we have
Mm.
bad days. So like taking that into effect as well too. And just recognizing that like, okay, I'm gonna be here, I'm gonna be the best wife I can possibly be for what you need right in this moment.
Yeah, that's great that you see it that way. A lot of people would
Yeah.
just, throw the toys out of the cot and run away. So,
Oh my gosh, yep.
yeah, and look, I think you're right. I think it's like we need to kind of acknowledge what's there for the other person and just allow them that space. My partner is very much the same. He actually works away, but when he comes home, like he can't just rush upstairs and, come give me a big kiss. And it's not like that. He needs time
Yep.
just to kind of like you say, decompress. And
Yes.
so I'm very conscious of giving him that space when he needs it. Even though I'm like, I just want to chat and
Yeah.
say all the things and ask all the
Yep.
questions, and it's too much. So yeah, so I totally get it. Okay, well, that's really cool. So it sounds like things have really kind of picked up for you during the pandemic in more ways than one, and
Yeah.
you're doing an amazing job balancing everything, and sounds like you're no longer having that sense of feeling left out. So
Hmm.
how have you created for yourself a community? Like, what does that look like in the virtual world?
Yeah, definitely. So there's basically two folds to this. So the first one is I actually joined a mastermind of other entrepreneurs who were at the same level that I was at, who have very similar ambition and drive, and are like, they have their own mission, like their own expertise, but we all kind of fit together in the same puzzle piece. So I did that. That was like a life changing like thing. It's amazing. I absolutely love it. If you're an entrepreneur, I would definitely check it out. It's called George Bryant. Well, that's his name, but he runs that mastermind program, and it's like phenomenal. So that's the first thing that has like really helped me. The second thing is I spend a lot of time just focusing on connecting with others, and just really focusing on answering questions or just being supportive and motivating, and like really just being intentional about surrounding myself with other people who again have similar drive, ambitions, and things like that. So Facebook has been like a really good tool for me to be able to find others who are just like ready to go at it, or like me, and are like, oh yeah, like I'm a mom too, I totally know what it's like, I totally get it, like we're in this together kind of feel. And so that's been helpful too.
Yeah, awesome. So what do you do to promote your business? Like what kind of activities do you do?
Yeah. So for me, what I end up doing is I do basically two different things. So I do email marketing, obviously, like as an email marketing strategist.
Of
So I
course.
do that. And then I also, right. Yeah. You're like, yep, of course. Yep. And then I also have my Facebook group as well, too. So as I mentioned, like I'm very active on Facebook. And then a lot of times, I invite people like, hey, like if you're interested in learning more about email marketing, I have a Facebook group. And then in my Facebook group, I have like mini trainings and series, and I do lives, and I just kind of pop in with tips and all of that really good stuff. So it's kind of like my own kind of party essentially that I've created around email marketing and around, like what I teach.
Yeah.
And so basically, honestly, just from being really active on Facebook, being intentional about who I, interact with, being in part of my own group, and then also being part of the mastermind as well, because that's like a really big like referral network for me too with those referrals. That's basically my secret sauce. Oh, and email marketing too, of course. So it's like four things.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's awesome. I mean, I know it's an area a lot of people struggle with, and um yeah, and definitely, it's awesome that you're focusing on that one thing that people really hate doing.
Yes, 100%,
Oh,
totally.
yeah, fantastic. So, what's going to shift for you coming out of this whole era that we're in, and who knows for how much longer it's going to last, but what is going to change for you? What are you looking forward to, and what are you living into that's different to what existed before?
Yeah, so I will say that since my child is now 2 and not as mom dependent, I'm very excited for live events. I love the energy from them. So I'm very excited and very hopeful that they will happen soon and I'll be able to like participate in ones that I've wanted to in the past. But I'm also really excited too to see like where things start to shift and grow within Facebook communities and in masterminds and things like that as people are really just leaning into, the virtual tools that we have to be able to connect
Yeah.
with each other and to serve other people as well too. Yeah, I'm just excited to see like where things end up and where they go and like what possibilities are created, from my business that allow us to be able to create, possibilities within like traveling and like all the fun stuff in life as well too.
Yeah. So, what events in particular are you looking forward to going to when you can attend live events? I just saw Social Media Marketing World have cancelled their 2021 event. Unfortunately, that's really sad. But what
I
other events
know.
are you thinking about?
Gosh, oh my gosh, I have like a whole bucket list. But I think for me, I have a couple friends who are planning on hosting or would like to host or like on the little a bunch of like private little retreats. And so I'm planning on hopefully attending them, supporting my friends, being part of their world, and then like serving those who also come to the retreats.
Yeah.
And then I'm also really excited to meet like my mastermind family that I've been in with as well too. Like, because like be like, oh, I can actually like poke you this time. Like, like you're here. Hello. And so that would be, yeah, I think that's the other one that I'm really excited about as well too.
Yeah.
Is being able to do that because it's so interesting. Like you start, so for an example, I became friends with my best friend Ashley, and it's like 2 years, and I have not been able to meet her yet. And I was like, I just want to meet you and your new baby and like all the things, because you become invested into people and their lives and what they're doing. And I'm just like, I think that is what I'm really excited for. Is definitely
Yeah.
meeting the people that I've become really close to for
I
the
can
first
really
time.
hear that. Yeah, I can really hear your excitement. That's awesome.
Oh yeah,
You're
I
just
am
gonna
so
go,
excited.
yeah, you're just gonna go nuts when you go to one of these events. That's awesome. And I love the idea of private retreats, like small groups. I used to run some
Yeah,
retreats for mums, and I'd love to run retreats again. That's something I'd really love to do as well. So it's
yeah.
yeah, so that idea, I just love it. And yeah, you can go all over the world and do those. Well, we used to be able to. Hopefully in the
Right.
future again, right? Yeah, I know, right?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, yeah. So wonderful. So um I always finish these interviews by acknowledging my guest. So I want to acknowledge you for juggling all the things and making this work today. With a 2-year-old, that is a challenge. And I know what that's like. And I really acknowledge you for that. And it sounds like you have a thriving business in amongst all of this, and that you've really made lots and lots of connections with people. You're making it work at home, which is also can be a real challenge when you're not used to working,
Yes.
with your partner working from home at the same time as you working from home, with a young, with a young child. That can be a very challenging thing. So I acknowledge you for that. And I acknowledge you for your extroversion because I'm picking up on it and I'm like, wow, this is really awesome. I love your energy. And just with everything that you're, out to accomplish in life, I wish you all the best. And I know that you're going to just do amazing things. So thank you so much for being on the show today.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.